Hi all. Um, can I just get a thumbs up from somebody? Can y'all hear me okay? Okay, I just want to double check. Um, so we're just gonna give it a couple of minutes here because we've got people still coming in and yeah, and then we'll get started once we've got everybody in the room. All right, so we're at 12:03, so I am going to go ahead and get us started. First things up first, just because I think there was some confusion about the Zoom recording. So just so you're aware, we're planning on making sure these sessions are recorded. So I just want to make everyone aware of that. So if you're somebody who feels more comfortable having their camera off, or if for some reason you just don't want uh, to be recorded anyway, feel free to send me a private chat in there and then I can end that recording. But because there was some confusion about it, I did want to bring that up top just just to make sure that we're addressing those comfort levels and everything. Um, so feel free to message me at any point. And then also throughout the presentation, you are absolutely welcome to ask me questions. I don't have a set aside time. Well, I mean, we'll have some time at the end for questions, but I always much prefer that you ask questions as you have them, because I don't want to risk you forgetting them along the way. Feel free to use the raise hand on Zoom, or you can also send me a chat. I am sometimes I'm not as good about catching those as I am about the hands in Zoom. But again, whatever you feel comfortable with, and I'll be happy to answer those as we have questions. Um, so with that said, are there any questions out of the gate before we get started? Okay. Well, welcome everyone. So my name is Christopher Clark. Everyone at the library just calls me Topher, so you're welcome to do the same. And I am one of the science reference librarians, and I am specifically liaison with a few of the departments on campus. So biology, climate science, animal and veterinary science. So a lot of the life sciences, and basically I work with them to make sure that we have library resources for those areas. If you are not one of those majors, that's okay. We all deal with the same library resources. So hopefully what we cover today will capture a lot of different subject areas and majors. Um, Today we're going to be talking on the theme of staying on top of literature in your field. So it's going to be a pretty focused workshop. Basically, how this is going to work is I'm just going to talk a little bit up front about some of the practices and habits that you'll want to have in place in terms of staying on top of literature. And then I will share my screen, and then I will just walk through how to do a few things like citation alerts, saving searches, and things like that. So that way, you know how to do that. And if we have time, I will let you all kind of try that on your own. And then we'll have an opportunity to kind of troubleshoot that if you run into any issues as you do that. So um, with that said, what we covered today, I'm going to show you kind of the basics. Every journal and every database is going to be a little bit unique, and it's going to have its own little quirks. So what I show you is going to be 90% applicable across databases and across journals in terms of creating alerts and things like that. But you may run into instances where some things require a login, others don't. Some might have different search functionality than others. So just kind of be aware of that going in. So this is not going to be uh, the most thorough of them. We'd need an 8-hour workshop to do that, but hopefully it'll get you 90% of the way. All right, so let's just start by talking about staying on top of literature. So obviously, you all are grad students. You're starting to do fieldwork and research in your areas, and it's going to be even more important at this stage than it was even in undergrad in terms of just staying on top of research in your area and keeping up to date, especially because things change so rapidly, and your research is added constantly to the databases, and it can be very, very, very easy to miss. Okay, so one of the best methods we have in terms of staying on top of these things are making use of the tools through various alerts that we can create for databases and journals and so on. So what I want to do is I want to show you how to make some of those alerts, and it's basically going to go into 3 different types. So the first is going to be a search alert. And a search alert is basically when you are, searching in a database, Google Scholar, whatever it might be. As I'm sure you're all aware, it can take sometimes a lot of trial and error to get that perfect search and to get the perfect terms that are giving you the results that you need and want. And so you want to it's very important to be able to save those searches so you have those keywords and you don't have to, redo your legwork. So we're going to cover that. And then kind of related to search alerts, we're going to look at citation alerts, which is a feature in some of the databases where you can get alerts that notify you when something you've been, like let's say an article that you've been researching and you want to see, hey, when does it, like, are other researchers citing this paper, and whenever a new citation drops for that paper, it'll notify you. Okay, so we'll have the search alerts, citation alerts, and then we'll talk about how to make alerts for specific journals. So if there's a journal in your subject area that's really vital to your research and it usually has a lot of good stuff in it, it'll notify you when those drop. So those are the 3 things we're going to talk about. And we'll just pause for a minute and just make sure there are no questions. And I don't see any hands or chats. So what I will then do is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we will just kind of walk through this process together. And I'm going to use a few different databases to try and capture all the different subject areas, or as much as I can. All right. Now you should be seeing my screen where I am currently logged into my Launchpad. So, I've gone into my UMain, I've entered my login and password, and I've got my Launchpad over here on the left. This is usually my first step whenever I'm doing anything with the library, because I want to ensure that I'm logged in and that it's authenticating me as a user. A lot of you are going to be accessing this remotely, so it's just very important that that's a first step, because especially when working remotely, if you forget to log in or if it times out your login, sometimes you'll get a random error message that, hey, like, you can't access X, Y, or Z, and that could be one of the issues. So I always make that my first step, and then I select the Fogler library from the Launchpad to take me right there. Now, from here, I'm going to just do a few different databases to demonstrate how we would do something like a save search. And I'm going to go ahead and go to our database list by clicking on the databases button, and that takes us to our A to Z list. Okay, now I'm going to start by looking at something like, if we wanted to clean this up, I could use my subject filter. And we can start with something like English, okay? And that will take you to a landing page with the most relevant databases in that given area, right? And so I can look here and see, some of the databases that we might use. Now, for this one, let's say I wanted to try literature online. I could click on that and click the database there. Oh, excellent. Okay, so there it goes. And so most of the time when you're using databases, they kind of fall under these big umbrellas. A lot of times it's going to be either a ProQuest database or an EBSCO database, as I'm sure you're kind of already aware of. Now, the good thing about the EBSCO and ProQuest databases is that once you know how to use one EBSCO database, you know how to use them all. Same with ProQuest. So let's say we're doing research on William Shakespeare, and we could throw Hamlet in there, and we could throw let's throw in psychoanalysis. So I don't really have anything in mind there. Those are just the things that popped into my head just so we get stuff. Okay, so let's imagine that through your process, you decided, hey, these are search terms that are coming up with relevant materials for me, because I can see that I'm getting 720 results, and I've gone through this and decided the things that are popping up for me are actually very useful. So I want to ensure that I get an alert, so that way any new article, any new piece of research that is published in this database, that is indexed in this database, that would come up under that search, it'll notify me. So that way that'll keep you from having to go in, each week and do the same search over and over and over. It'll just notify you when something new is published there that would have come up under this search. So under your results page, what you would do is you'll notice that up top here, under your search terms, you've got the number of results, and then to the right, you've got a few options to modify search. There is an option for recent searches, so you can, look and see that, the recent searches you've made, just in case you forgot to write one down and needed to look at it. And then you have this save search alert option. So there are a few things. You can start by saving your search, so that way you can just always access it at any point. It'll just be saved to your account, or you can go ahead and create an alert, and it will prompt you with a little form that you can put here. So you can name the alert whatever you want. I'll call it Freud's Hamlet based on the search terms, and you just can review the details. So it'll show you the search terms that you used, the databases that are selected for this alert, right? So keep in mind that when you make these alerts, it's only going to make the alert that for those things that are published in the databases you have selected. And then you can send it to the email of your choice. It's best to do just your main.edu email, just to make sure that it doesn't cause any issues with access later on, right? And you can add a message. You can include search details, highlighting, and so on. Now, what the highlighting means is that when it comes to you, it will have highlighted those terms that were included in your search, right? So it'll highlight Shakespeare, psychoanalysis, and so on. Now, there are a couple of more options here. And it's going to ask you basically what kind of alert do you want? Do you want just the newly published documents or the newly added documents? And let me clarify a little bit here. So the newly published documents would be, let's say you set up this alert in 2021. So anything that was published in like 2022 or 2023, you'd get those that they were new documents that kind of fell under those search terms. But you can also include items that weren't previously in a ProQuest database. So let's say historical documents. Let's say there was a previous article written about psychoanalysis in Hamlet that hadn't yet been digitized and put into ProQuest, but it was just put in there for whatever reason in in the last year. Then you would get those notifications as well if those historical documents or older documents are important to you in your research. And again, that's going to change a little bit from field to field. It may matter less if you're in something like climate science, but with something like this, when you're doing Shakespeare research, it might be really relevant to you. So you can make the selection based on what makes most sense to you. And then you can put a stop point if you want it to stop. So you can have it stop after 2 months, a year, so on. And you can have it send you a scheduled alert even when no new documents match my search. If you just want to know that it's continuing to scan, but even if nothing new has kind of come up. And then from there, you would create the alert, and then you get the regular. We'll select weekly. You'd get the regular weekly alerts on each Tuesday for the next 2 months on if anything else comes in under those search terms. Okay. Does that all make sense so far? Okay, so what is really useful about this is, again, it saves you some of the legwork later on and having to recreate your search terms and just constantly check. This is all automated, so it will do that legwork for you, and then just pop in your inbox whenever that pops in. So with this being a ProQuest database, we have a ton of different ProQuest databases. There's one I use for the aquatic sciences that is also under ProQuest. It would operate under the same the same method for creating a search alert. I want to show you real quick how to do the same thing in Web of Science and also how to do a citation alert. So we're going to go ahead and go back to Fogler Library homepage. Okay, I'm going to click on databases, and on our A to Z list, I will go to W, and I will find Web of Science. This is a database I use a lot for the life sciences because it has a lot of stuff and it's indexed really well. I'll wait for that to load. There we go. Okay. Now, what I will do here is I'll do it the same as before. I'll do a practice search, see what results we get, and then show you how to make those alerts. Now with Web of Science, you'll want to make an account. So this is going to be separate from your UMain account, right? It's going to be specific to Web of Science. I will go ahead and sign in preemptively, so that way it doesn't prompt it for me later. Oh. All right, this happened to me the other day. I must have changed my password at some point and not saved it, but that's okay. I can still show you what we need. So it is free to set up an account. Sometimes Web of Science the registration process, sometimes it takes a little bit. So you'll fill out the registration form and it's all free, but if you don't hear anything immediately, it's okay. Sometimes it just takes them a minute. But let's go ahead and do a search here, and one of the recent searches I did for a class was white pine weevil, so we're going to stick with that. Okay, and we get 316 results. Now again, with Web of Science, you're searching both the abstracts, and then some of these will be available full text, but not all of them. But let's say you found one that was relevant to your research. We're just going to randomly pick this population dynamics one. Okay, um, so I can click on that. Okay, let me move this over a little bit. So you'll notice that this article, when you click on it, it's got all the bibliographic information, and then it's got the citation network over here on the side. So in Web of Science, it gives you the option to look at all the other papers that have cited this one, as well as all of the sources that it references. Okay, so if I wanted to, I could click on the citations and it would show me other papers that have cited this. But let's say I want to actually follow any new papers that come up that cite this paper. I've decided that this is an article that's really relevant to my research. It's really, really important. And I want to keep track of other researchers and other sources that are also citing this paper. So that way I can kind of track how this paper is continuing to evolve within my field and impact my field. What you would do is under Citation Network, you would go to Create Citation Alert. Okay, and of course I'm having an issue with my login today for some reason, but it would be the same deal. So you would create the citation alert. It would prompt you to check the various boxes that you want, and anytime that paper is cited, as long as you put in your main.edu email, it will send that to your inbox, and so that way it's ready to go. And that's going to be a little different from a search alert, because rather than notifying you whenever a new paper is published that would show up under your search, it's tying it specifically into any new thing that's published that cites this paper. Okay, so that's what a citation alert would look like. Yeah, and apologies, I'm having issues with the sign in, so uh, I will have to troubleshoot that later, but just trust me that the the process is very similar in terms of the form that it uses. Any questions up to this point? Okay, I want to show you another kind of alert, because this could be very useful to some of you. If there is a specific journal, of any kind that you use regularly that's really, really important to you, you can create alerts for those. Now, whereas with the others, we've gone to the databases themselves and done it all within database. Usually it's helpful for looking at journals specifically. You're usually going to have to go to those individual journals, and they're going to be a little different from journal to journal. I'm going to show you one as an example. So I'm going to go to the library homepage and go to eJournals. Okay, and just for ease, I'm going to show you something like Wall Street Journal, in case we have any business majors in here. Okay. And then once you search for it, it's going to show you where that journal is available across our databases in the library. So I'm going to go ahead and select Wall Street Journal Online because it's available from 2010 to the present day. So I know that's going to continue to be up to date, and that makes sense for me to make an alert there. So I would click on the link, wait for it to load. And again, depending on which database that journal is housed in and coming from, it's going to be a little bit different, but usually you're going to find something like what you see here, where it has the main page. You can go issue by issue, and up in the top right, you have a few options. I could copy a URL. That would be like a permalink URL that would take me directly to this page, and I can create an alert. Okay, so what I can then do from here is I can, again, just view the form. It's going to be for the Wall Street Journal online. And it will ask me if I want to send this alert when the citation or abstract is available, or if I want to wait for it to send the alert till the full text is available. Okay, so this is going to be an option you sometimes have with alerts where it's going to say, is just a citation only notification okay? Because some of these are on publication embargoes where we'll get the citation right away, but it might be a few months before the embargo lifts and we get the full text. So again, as the researcher, you decide what matters to you. I'm going to go ahead and say I only want the notifications when the full text is available. Okay. But if you're working in, for instance, like a scientific field where it's really, really important that you get those abstracts right away and you're at least aware of what researchers are doing, even if you can't access the full text immediately, then you might select that first option. Okay. And this could be a good option if you do need it right away. If it sends you an alert for a citation that we don't yet have the full text for, you can still use that citation to do an interlibrary loan, and we might be able to get it from another library. Okay, so that's another option for you. And again, with here, you would just have it sent to your email of choice and tell it when you would like it to stop, and so on. So as you can see, the forms you're going to be using are pretty much going to follow the same format of it's going to ask you the where to send the alert, the kind of alert it's sending you, whether it's citation or full text, and so on. And then when you want it, how regularly you want it to send it to you, and when you want it to stop. So those are typically going to be the kinds of things asked for in an alert. But once you spend a little bit of time setting those up beforehand, then it pretty much takes care of itself, and it's automated. So that way, that leaves you some takes away some cognitive loads, so where you can focus on other searches and other things. Which takes us at 12:28. So we do have a few minutes. So I want to just see if there are any questions about any of this or things that we didn't cover that you are curious about. And I'll go ahead and stop my share so I can see the screen better.
Don't have any now, but I might have some as I go to do this.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. In fact, a lot of you might, when you go to do this, because that's a totally natural part of this process, it makes sense now. In 5 minutes, 60% of it is gonna leave the brain, and that's totally okay. Just be aware that you can contact us at any point. So what I recommend you doing, and I'm going to share my screen again for a moment, is you will want to just be aware of who your subject librarian is. So I'm going to go back to I'm going to close this out. I'm going to go back to the Fogler web page. And then what you will need to do is you can go, you'll scroll down just a smidge, and under where it says contact us, there is a button that says subject specialists. These are going to be your subject specialist librarian. So, and it's going to be alphabetized by subject area. So if you're in animal and veterinary science, I will be your librarian. That's got my phone number. That's got my email. You can contact me if you have any questions, and I can schedule a follow-up with you. I can, if it's something that we can handle through email, I will be happy to do that. If you're in anthropology, then Amber would be your librarian. But this is the easiest way because usually when you start to work in your area, it makes sense to reach out to a librarian who knows the databases you're going to be using and the journals you're going to be reading. So yeah, so look on here to see who your librarian is, and then as you have questions, just email that librarian and we can help you out with any of this. And if for some reason we don't know, we work with a lot of really smart colleagues and we can find out the answer for you. And that's true of whether you're creating alerts for this or if you just have any questions about your research moving forward. That's why we're here. We do consults with grad students all the time to help with research and, doing literature reviews and meta-analysis and things like that. Okay. Awesome. Let me see here. Yeah, you're welcome, Michaela. So with that, that takes us to time. It would, yeah, so very brief time together, but I hope that was helpful. This will be recorded and or shared later. So if you have any questions, this will be available on the workshops page. Um, and yeah, again, just find your librarian, and you are welcome to reach out to us at any point. Okay. All right. With that, I will let you all go and take care, everyone. And thanks for joining us for a little workshop here. All right. Bye bye.